Hello. So, I'm going to be incredibly honest. I had a video in mind. I thought it would be an interesting and lovely look back at sort of how the Legends universe gets written. Specifically a kind of above the table, top down meta narrative look at the things that I like, the things that I feel the most attached to in Legends universe, and how those things ended, why they did, how they did, and kind of understanding that they've ended makes them more powerful and meaningful, and an exploration of just the question that I think about all the time, just how much power does an author have. But we're not doing that today because I got a question. I got another question in the comments about very, very simple question. It was something along the lines of, came from Michelle, and the question was, what is your favorite genre of storytelling or something? It was the words genre and storytelling were in it, and frankly, after that, I stopped caring because I had a lovely idea that I haven't thought about deeply enough yet, and I just want to explore it. Of what is my favorite genre of storytelling? Why do I like them? And sort of like just generally explore what are the strengths and weaknesses of each storytelling vehicle. Each way that you can tell a story, understanding that like every way you can tell a story has a million different ways. But I'm not talking about the construction of the story. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about, like, is it in medias res? When does the first act stop? What, like Chekhov's gun, this sort of like, I'm not talking about the like building blocks of the story, but purely how it gets told and how it gets told. Like, what does the way you tell the story add to the story you're telling? I think that's an incredible, like, I just think that's an awesome thing to explore and think about. I love that idea. And so I literally wrote down all the ones I could think of immediately on the back of an envelope, and I'm going to check them off, talk about them, and I already know what my favorite storytelling method is, but I just think this is awesome and I want to do it. So, in no particular order, and also, very important to note, I am not an art student. I'm not a film student. There are going to be other perspectives out there, and those perspectives will. I guarantee you that there will be perspectives out there that are more educated than mine. Specifically, they will understand the source material that they are talking about more. But I can do my absolute best to try and pick apart the way I've experienced these things and just try and meditate on what does it bring to the table. So will it be holistic? Probably not. I would love to do a video essay on this at some point. I don't know what the question or thesis of that video essay would be, so in lieu of that, I've decided to handle it this way, but just keep that in mind. There will be other perspectives out there, and those perspectives, I just think this question is so big and interesting that it's worth looking into. Second, this is which one is my favorite is my opinion. I don't have a method of storytelling I don't like. Just plain and simple. Doesn't work for me. Doesn't there is no such thing as a. Oh, I just thought of another one. As there's no such thing as a method of storytelling I don't enjoy. Because I think that everything you do in art is a tool, and I think when you use those tools well, you can get to a result you couldn't have gotten to any other way. So this is my opinion. It is my opinion limited by my understanding. Those are the two caveats I want to talk about, or at least that I want to be very, very clear with before I move on with anything else. So, in no particular order, what are my favorites and why? I am going to just pick randomly on what I'm gonna on this list. Let's start with one that probably comes to mind first. Books. Books are great. Do I count picture books as differently? Ooh, comic books. That's one. I'm gonna add comic book and graphic novel to these. And then I'll probably stop expanding the list. Books. I think the biggest advantage books get is time. How do I... This is probably something I want to state immediately. I want this to... Because this is going to be an undercurrent, I think, of every single one I talk about. But I guess the way I would say it is not an English student, not a film student. I am writing things as would you a book, and I do make videos as would you larger film project. The strengths of this video is going to be talking about the strengths of every single one of the things on this list and why I like them and what they bring to the table. So incredibly worth mentioning that absolutely they all come with weaknesses, and books in particular I feel the most right now personally. Writing Crown for No King, I like books a lot, but I will be honest with you and say that there are things inside of Crown for No King that would be best told not in this medium. But this is the medium I have available to me. This is the medium I feel is the most accessible towards getting content out there in a way that I think the content should be displayed. Books give you as much time as you need. The vehicles through which you can pace things in a book are, the way that you regulate your interest curve, your Chekhov's gun, the way that you can spend time in a book. Time is so often premium in the vast majority of vehicles for storytelling. A movie, every minute of a movie is going to cost you money. Every drawing in a comic book requires imagination and framing. You get things for the price you pay. You are getting value for money, or in this case, value for effort. But in a book, you just have words. That limits you. My cat is screaming. I don't know if you can hear that. I apologize if you can. You just have words. The limitations of a book are numerous, but you get the value of perspective. There are so many rules in making a TV show or filming anything. The 180 rule, the way that you set up your angle. Like, yes, the camera can help you tell a story, but you have to follow its rules for it to be understood. There is work that you have to do as the director, the producer, the actor, to let the camera help you tell the story. The words are something that are so universally understood that you don't need, video game literacy. You don't need tech literacy. You don't need, you don't need video. There is a storytelling language that so many cultures have. Bollywood will tell its story differently than a play, will tell it differently than Hollywood, will tell it differently than a video game. Words are pretty transmissible, and even when it is insular, even when it is cultural, words, I find, tend to be the easiest to pick up on. It can be the most easy to, for example, develop your setting in a book, because once you've set that, the viewer is doing so much of the work for you that if you can leverage that correctly, it can help you a lot. I really like the way that you can just swap between characters quickly, or that you can give the internal monologue space and room to be treated in a way that you're just out of luck for a classic movie. It's harder to do that because you have to convince the audience that this was worth listening. But you don't. There's not a lot of vagary. You can be so incredibly explicit in a book. Literally every single part of it has to be on purpose. All of it. That is a constraint I feel a lot when I write. I can absolutely find, like, man, the better way to tell this story would be X. But there is power there. And it is an incredible power that makes the experience of reading a story specific, personal, and cutting. The idea that you have this interpretation of characters. When something is written in a book and people want to draw art of it, you will get 18 different versions of a character. You don't have to use the communication of color or space or framing. The audience will do that work for you, and that lets you shortcut or empower certain parts of the read. It's beautiful. So books, great, and particularly powerful. Booker, I don't know what you need, but now's not the time. I'm going to add here books on tape. The voice actor adds a layer of dimension. That the intonation, power, the way that the accents, voicing, phrasing, all of the things that a musician does to make this note more powerful, to make this thing linger, borrowed time, all of the things that a performer can add even to just a cold read of a novel, adds layers and textures. It assimilates, it adds another lens, a funnel, a focus point, where if they are directed properly, can get your whole audience on the same page. So now, when you have those fan artists making characters, maybe instead of 18, maybe you get 9 different interpretations of this character. Because, you can add the way you read dialogue. One of the things I'm noticing about Crown for No King is I know that I'm going to be voicing it, so I think to myself, if I have a line of dialogue and then said, Alistraza, growls it out or something, I like to pace the novel better, to pace the reading better, instead of adding that to try and break up the dialogue, which is useful sometimes, just as a sort of pacing tool, framing tool, guiding the listener to who's talking. If I just reply immediately and then act the direction, then the audience doesn't need to do that work. And I understand that anyone who has done this before is listening to this and being like, you're just saying how this works. All you're doing is telling me this is how this thing functions. But for the purposes of this video, remember, in case you haven't done this thought exercise yet, if I don't think that I'd ever thought of this question before in these plain terms, but I ask you, really consider the strengths of each story, and as a fun thought exercise, take the stories you like and ask yourself, would there be any story you want to make? A beautiful question, I think, is what is the best medium to tell it? Not just what are the ones available to you. What tells this story best? What strengths do I need to highlight things? So when yes, I'm saying that a book on tape does blank, a book does X, but that means that if I'm digesting the story, I will get more of something. A book will always lead me to understanding it. A book has greater potential for me to understand its characters, and for stories where that needs to happen in explicit detail, that's excellent. Yes, you can use books that don't do this, and yes, there are more things that a book can do. Remember, this is my opinion and my understanding. But the question, if you are an artist, how best do I tell this story, is so lovely. It excites me. Anyways, so that's books on tape. Comic books. I love comic books. Manga, graphic novels, we're all putting it under one umbrella here. Have you ever noticed how much page layout has to do with your enjoyment of a story? I don't read One Piece. I don't. I have read New 52 Batman, for example, or All-Star Superman. There are ways. Fables. I think Fables does a great job of this. I think that if you ever really notice how you can have a drawing come in from outside the page, I like, or really simple, really fun, you have two connected panels with a character opening a door that separates them, and then those two panels become rooms in a house, and the story moves as your eye does. It becomes a stationary, sort of rotoscoped way to tell the story, guiding your reader. That's a cool experience, and the fact that drawings and putting everything in a box and organizing those boxes gives you the power to break the medium you are in really cool ways. A full page spread holds power. It commands your attention. I feel like in a comic book or in a graphic novel, in a manga, you have the ability, if you are careful enough. my cat. Oh, no. Hello. If you are careful enough, you can really, really, really highlight specific moments in a way that gets paced in just a method so differently. The ability for me, the reader, to take as much time as I need on anything I am reading, the ability for me, the reader, to pace it myself is magical. I love it. Buddy. Buddy, please. Nope, not there. I don't know what you want. Comic books, incredible medium. I love that the reader gets to pace it, and I love that the artist gets to literally break the mold. Subtly, all the time, none of the time. If you've read, oh goodness, some of Alan Moore's works, I can't remember them, but I specifically remember one panel where there are two characters talking about the sort of more existential meanings of existence stuff, but they are walking on the M.C. Escher Endless Staircase. The drawing that has no beginning, no middle, no end. Just a staircase that goes up endlessly in a single simple loop, and there are just different sets of those characters walking along it. And you can read that loop in any way and get something different. It's like, yeah, this conversation is continuous. It goes on forever. You can pick any point to start it. You don't need that comic book literacy. You don't need that, like, it develops and change. It's so cool. And I can legitimately think of comic books where it's like, you just can't adapt that. Or if you can, you're better than me. you're just a genius. You're like, the ways. There are excellent comic book movies nowadays. They don't happen all the time, but there are ways to like adapt things that can capture a piece of the power of the thing you are adapting. Unbreakable, the movie Unbreakable. I know M. Night Shyamalan, but if you look at the way Bruce Willis gets framed, it's always not all of the screen. It's a small section, a sliver, developed, framed. There is a frame in the frame of the camera, and that's where you're focusing. It can be a doorway. At one point, it's like just the shot fades in to like someone behind like an almost Starbucks logo. It like there are looking between the seat cushions of it's such a cool idea to like, no, this is a comic book, phrase it like a comic book. And like any movie, the Into the Spider-Verse is out there that can actually frame and communicate, like make frames that are believably from. It's wild. We'll talk about movies in a bit, but assumedly, but wild, wild. And that exists whenever I guess my point is when you see that and you go, damn, that's cool. It's so awesome that this movie did that. They're just trying to cop the power that comic books just innately have. Graphic novels do this all the time. If they're good, that's just something that happens to you. Like these out there cool things that you see in the media that are just more tangible to the broader audience are people just understanding and trying to work so hard to replicate things that are done in the just drawn medium. It's awesome. It's really cool. Take these things seriously. There are stories in graphic novels and comic books you're never gonna get another way. You just have to do it this way for it to be this good. You have to. The author of Chainsaw Man is so crazy. The way he will break frame or establish a page layout that just paces, like making some shots literally small, or text, like it's wild, it's crazy, it's so good. I love it. I love the medium. I do. Anyways, we gotta do stuff. Plays. Plays are kind of wild. Think about this for a second. Definitionally, 99 times out of 100, not always an individual act. You'll have the exeunt stage direction every now and again, but definitionally, the scenes in plays are oneers. They have to be. It is all of the actors moving in that clockwork Rube Goldberg machine way to make something work. That constrains you. Again, there are things you can't do because of that. But there is a reason that the opening shots and most of the shots in general in West Wing feel so good. There is a language and communication to a oneer, to one contiguous shot, that is great. There is the way just having to have it, yes, it has power and stuff, but the skill, the ability of each performer to be able to pull that off every time, and so I don't have a good way to connect this, but it is integrally connected. The thing about sort of this more live media is that you are at the mercy of whatever happens to you. You can't do another take. The biggest faux pas I have ever experienced in any theater production, whenever I have been on stage in that way and something goes wrong, you keep going. The show must go on. You have to. There's no stopping it. There's no turning the car around. If you have to take a scene from the top again, you pray to sweet Shakespeare in the sky that you can do like something to make the audience laugh about it and not feel it. It is hard, and you just can't, like, it happens all the time because it's hard, but the skill you have to have, the direction you have to have, and the chemistry you have to have, it is just definitionally, people, I've seen the word energy a lot. People are like, oh, the energy of a stage play. It's just raw. It's literally, it's something that's powerful and so loosely held together. It's like hurtling at highway speeds in a dune buggy. There's just not a lot between you and the outside world. That fourth wall is so incredibly thin, and it's a real physical person. You can't get more fidelity than that. You can't, like, for that actor, this is their one shot. This is their chance. And it's just, as an actor, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna do that. No. All of the energy you can muster, everything you can point at the audience, you are just out there in the cold, and it is your own force of skill, talent, understanding, characterization, movement, direction, all of it. All of the physical aspects, the vocal tics, the like where you're standing on stage, all of it. Everyone has to come together. The set design, the way the set design gets used. When I was in Kyoto, I got to see Bando Tamasaburo perform real kabuki theater, and I remember the dance done at the end of it, and the sort of laughs and the costumes and the way they had the whole stage revolve to as their stage transition. They just had whenever they needed to move the set, rather than close the curtains, they ripped that baby around. It was just on a motor, and the way that the actors had to, like, hold themselves and pose to let us feel that, and the way kabuki theater is done at all, no theater, also from Japan, the sense of, like, you don't get emotions, you don't get the actor's face, it's their body, that's where the communication is coming from. The way that stage performances happen is electrifying and simply mightier. It is so good. There are, like, Jesus, I remember my aunt was doing some work with just sort of a local theater group, and they would write their own skits and perform, and I remember one of them was about, like, it was, done in conjunction with some of the, like, local, I know that, some of these people, like, had been through rehab or needed help, and they had just been dealing, people who had been dealing with unbelievably powerful emotions in very, very difficult positions in life. And movies about that exist. They have. But this 25-minute sketch of a person in an apartment just done, like, in a church. It was, it wasn't like we didn't have, like, a stage in rural Vermont, was so deeply affecting because of, yes, the performance, yes, the writing, yes, the author's ability to understand it, but more specifically than any of that, the intense, energy is not it. Though people say the word energy, it's not. The intensity, the rawness, the way that your skin is after road burn, the way that the tenderness you feel when your body is bruised, is the default for how these performances work and function. It is tense up there, and that vehicle and power, oh, beautiful. I'm spending a lot of time on this. Sorry, I have strong feelings. I wrote down cartoon trying to figure out what I mean by that. I guess the word that comes to mind is the sort of immediate childish nature. I I'm trying to figure out how I feel about this in the moment. So the thing I sort of default to is Avatar: The Last Airbender, which in my opinion is probably the greatest kids show in the universe. In the same way that I feel like The Hobbit is the greatest kids book in the universe, where it doesn't talk down to you and it handles really big feelings in ways that kids can handle and, more importantly, digest. It seeps in and it gets to them. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know that listen, autism sucks. Like, I had my own stuff going on when I was a kid. I don't think I ever appreciated children's content in the way I was supposed to. I think I kind of had to figure it out for myself. I always felt more comfortable watching Babylon 5 or Battlestar Galactica. That was like Stargate. Stargate was one of my favorite things as a kid. Lord of the Rings. I read, Moby Dick because I was told I couldn't finish it in a night. But like, that's not meeting that art on its terms. Like, I really loved these things and I didn't get them all the way either, but I really can't think, like, I guess Ben 10, but there's never a cartoon that I was able to, like, watch all of or watch the contiguous story. I had to deal with, I think Avatar: The Last Airbender was one that, like, the story was so palpable enough that I did the work it took. Whenever I missed an episode, I would ask questions, and figure out whatever I needed to figure out, and I connected with it just because the story was so powerful. I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that this is a medium I don't like. I think it's a medium I don't understand. And I think my inability to articulate what is good about it and what is powerful about it, how best to use it, is probably the heart of what, like, that confusion is probably the heart of why I didn't really connect with it. And for that reason, I don't think I should say too much about it. My kids' show was Doctor Who, 'cause it kind of is. It's like, let's be honest. Like, yeah, scary sometimes. Silence in the Library. That's a scary episode when you're a kid. Like, it is. I feel like, that's children's programming that affected me because of the cool zippy zappy, stuff, and I like the technology and aliens and explosions, whatever. But I loved the technology. I loved the ship design of Battlestar Galactica and the Cylon ships. I remember that to date, where I was just looking at those and I was like, that's the coolest thing in the universe. So, like, enjoying it for the reasons that I should, no. But I still understood enough of what the storytelling was trying to achieve with the medium it was in that I could capture the kinds of feelings that I think I was supposed to get. So I would rank those thusly. I would. Yeah, it's different. But I just don't think my media habits at the time, I don't think I've ever really, I haven't watched, Gravity Falls. That's not something I've engaged with. I've heard good things, but I don't think I've ever really touched cartoons in a way that it would be useful to me. I just don't think I have. So I don't have an educated enough opinion to speak on them, so I won't. I would, however, if you have an explanation for me in the comments, I would love to read it. So, long form poetry. This one's fun. I count among this Shakespeare. I just do. The way the meter works, the way the words are chosen, sorry. Other people disagree with me. I know there are going to be some theater nerds I know outside my door, and I'm going to have to, cut them down if I want to ever get groceries again. I'm going to have to do battle to be able to leave my house. But listen, I simply think that long form poetry is a more expansive thing than people appreciate. I think it gets hidden every now and again. I think whenever there's a book like Name of the Wind where people are like, oh man, I just really loved the prose, I'm like, hmm? Like, I think that poetry is fluid enough to show up in more places than you'd realize. I think meter and rhyme are more than linguistic fluff. And I think it is beautiful, and it is my favorite version of spoken. I think it is my favorite version of. Well, no, that's not true because music exists, but you know what I mean. I think it is my favorite version of language we get. That's true. I think it is my favorite version of language we get because the definitionally to be good at poetry, you have to. You look so sad. I'm sorry. He's just sitting here looking up at me sadly, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know what he needs. I have food and water, buddy. Are you okay? Oh, I'll give him love in a bit. Um, but definitionally, poetry is about mastery of the language. You have to be good at use it because language is so much more than understanding. There are declension. There's you have to be worried about conjugation. You have to be worried about tense and number and voice. Whether passive voice is more than just Yoda saying stuff. It's like it does something. There is an undercurrent to words that is so universally used that it is powerfully delicate. It lets you. Poetry can add more nuance than any other version of storytelling, definitionally. Guess what? You use language every day of your life. You just do. And practice tends to make people better at things. Study helps. Boy, howdy, I wish more people studied language. Especially their own. I need to get better at English. It's a cool language. It does neat things. Listen. I love The Raven. I love the way it uses meter and slant rhymes. The silken sad uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. That's just a beautiful way to the sounds that build the understanding of that phrase is awesome. The sort of once upon a midnight dreary, while I wandered weak and weary. The texture of the words contributes. I love it. Kubla Khan. There are Oh no, I can't remember the first, but in the desert, sign melody, pleasure dome he did decree. I can't remember. Dang. Robert Frost, I used to hate him. I really did when I was in high school. I wasn't a big fan. But sort of the poetry out loud, I got into it, but I didn't want to commit to it, and I wish I had. But poetry is haunting. It is incredible. You know what? The Homeric poems. They're literally poems. You need to know a different language to get the most out of them, which sucks. But it's a dead language, worse. But it's great. When you can get the sort of opening the meter to the Iliad, the alba varumque cano Troiae qui primus abores Italiam fato profigus. The way the sounds build the meaning of what they say is so good. It's so good. I don't think the Iliad is one of the Homeric poems. I'm pretty sure that was commissioned by whatever. Poetry is so incredible. Long form poetry to tell your story, even more incredible. And the wild, really cool thing is there's so many languages out there that can make even more use of it. That's awesome. The way that, the sort of syllabic structure of Japanese, God, I need to learn more about this language so I can dig into its poetry and just really appreciate it. Like, you hear haiku, and in English, I don't think we get as much out of it, probably. I don't know yet. I don't have that perspective. But I want to! Poetry's cool! Language is awesome! Poetry is just about the language and making the language matter the most it can. And if you think poems can't tell stories, you're wrong. Again, the Odyssey's a poem, and it's one of the stories we know the most. The poetic Edda, the prose Edda. Like, if long form poetry shows up in more things than you think it does, and it's cool every single time, I promise you. So yeah, the power of poetry is the power of language. Easy. Oh no, we haven't gotten very far through this list. Okay. ARGs. They're rad, right? I wasn't part of it, but I hear such fond things about Cloverfield and its ARG. This whole thing with Slusho, you have to, like, oh, well, you have to use the Wayback Machine on this site, and like, oh, there's a QR code, and you have to scan that to go here. The idea that it is a puzzle that rewards you with narrative, that's cool. Hard to do. Hard to make. I can't imagine. But there's just a force of investment there that is so hard to get out of anything else. It's literally, oh, you want the story? Come get me. It's so cool. It is literally the idea of story as a reward for work and cleverness and puzzles, and really just forcing the viewer to use every single part of their brain. That's amazing. God, I want to be. One day I'm going to do a Legends ARG. I hope. God, it'd be so cool. So ARGs, awesome, all about investment. That's a power you don't get in places. The audience has to meet you just on your terms. They don't have a choice. That's really cool. The idea that like story is hidden or like found, or you have to do the type of puzzle can help, sculpt the way that it's great. And I want to spend more time on these things, but I want to spend more time on anything. Movies. Let's just do movies. They're pretty awesome. Color, framing, time. There is more. So I think about it like this: a picture is worth 1,000 words. Therefore, X number of pictures in a movie is X number of words. Why is a picture worth 1,000 words? How small is your subject? What's in focus? What isn't? Where's the horizon line? Remember that? Like, where's the horizon line? Like, look at the painting. Tell me where the horizon line. These are beautiful ideas that matter. The ability. Movies are just photography that tells stories, and photography can tell stories. A single picture can tell a story. I'm gonna kind of wrap that up here. There's a lot more. They're super different, and I shouldn't. That's a bad thing, but we're going on 43 minutes, man. The ability to move, to act, to show only what you want, to build a shot, to get very close or very far. The individual scenes can tell you everything you need to know in as little time as possible. Time is premium in a movie, but shots can equal covered ground. The beauty of movies, I think, the super cool thing movies can do, and there's a lot. I'm not covering these in as much depth as I'd like to, but one of the coolest, most interesting things a movie can do to me is that really what you're doing is you're telling one story 18 different ways at the same time, all of the time. And so the power that poetry gives you, the sort of power that acting gives you, that delivery can give you, that shots can give you, the photography of it, the construction, the build of everything involved all means something, and any one of them, rather than it being, it's a harmony, it's an orchestra. Sometimes the woodwinds get their solo, and sometimes the brass disappears. Just color, sometimes the lack of it. Movies have so many different ways. When a movie, The Lighthouse, I think it was called, was in grayscale, that meant something. That was used a certain way. The like the Every single vehicle of storytelling can be made use of in movies. I think because every single one of these storytelling devices is a technology, and movies are the one we have developed the most. I think that books are fairly developed. I think that there are a lot of ways to sort of muster, master, manifest these technologies that movies benefit from. I feel like we've gotten really, really good at telling stories via movie. And I feel like there are a lot of benefits that they get to enjoy because of that. So what is the strength of a movie? The ability to command so many different storytelling vehicles all at once to make an orchestra of storytelling. That's it. I could get deeper into it. I could point out movies that have broken the mold. They exist. They're out there. I named Unbreakable and Into the Spider-Verse. That's a cool one. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of my favorite movies ever. Hero. That movie's straight up propaganda, and I love it. It's one of my favorite movies ever because of the way it uses color and framing and acting and over-the-top nonsense and the way it cuts and edits. And the way it tells its story through time in a way that's so easily communicated, so quickly, in a way that the pacing doesn't feel like it's getting out from under itself. Man, it's cool. Movies, they're great. You love them. You get it. Pure orchestra. Fight me. That's a method of telling stories. It just is. You don't need a single word. Hey, man, famously, I hate this song, but New Yorker in Paris kind of tells you what it is, right? That's a story. It's about the emotions. Music is the best thing ever. It just is. It's the greatest thing humanity ever invented, ever. It can absolutely tell you a story. Look, hey, you want to see? Listen, here you go. You got just, you do a chord, you move it to another chord. That felt something, yeah, that was a journey. That was a little journey. Easy chords, so you're just jumping around. Just 1 4 8 1, hey, whatever. But it means something. Just like that, there is a journey you go on, definitionally, in good music. Pure orchestra can do it. Songs can do it all the time. That's what musicals are. Let's talk about musicals. It's on the list. Operas too, but I'm gonna be real. I don't know enough about opera. I wish I did. There's so many things I want to learn. I love, regardless, musicals. Pure orchestra. It's a way of telling stories. I remember being part of an orchestra that played the Lord of the Rings Symphony. Not the one from the movie. This was written before the movie came out, and it was literally just this composer going, you know what? I'm like, no, this is before, oh my god, I can't remember. Literally, tomorrow, I'm going to an event in New York. My birthday was just happened. And as a gift, there is a viewing of Return of the King in a concert hall, but the music is played start to end by a live orchestra, and that's one of the coolest things I'm ever gonna see her do. The score to Lord of the Rings is one of the greatest of all time. I dare you to like I sing along with the chorus every single time the Balrog shows up in Moria every time because it feels so good. Um, anyway, pure orchestra is a method of storytelling. I played an orchestra about Lord of the Rings that was 45. I love Lord of the Rings too much. It's a different thing. But it was 45-minute long orchestra. It was originally like an hour and 45 minutes, but our director was like, "You guys are teenagers, and I'm not gonna put you through that." But it was so cool. The whole way we thought about it, the way we approached, the way we directed it. Well, I don't know how good we did, but it's a way to tell a story. It just is. Go listen to Rhapsody in Blue. That's a good Gershwin piece. It's the best Gershwin piece. It's my favorite Gershwin piece. I love Gershwin a lot. New Yorker in Paris isn't good. I don't like it. I just don't. I'm sorry. It is so great. I met a Gershwin scholar who was doing a sort of tour. He had just written a book on the sort of Gershwin and his life and the way he wrote things and sort of how like the sort of love affairs he had built the kind of music he made, and sort of the way he George and Ira would work together, some incredible stories, and he loved New Yorker in Paris. He loved it. He was like, oh, listen to how Gershwin uses the strings here. Listen to the way the no, I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of it. I apologize. Shoot me later. I've got other stuff to talk about. Musicals. I have heard musicals described thusly, and it is the only way a musical ever needs to be described to anyone. It's just the right way. Is that in a musical, you talk until the emotions are too powerful and you can't talk anymore, so you sing. And then you sing until the emotions are too powerful and you can't sing anymore, so you dance. That's how they work. And music is better than words. It is. Poetry's cool. Language is cool. I love language. I want to be a wordsmith. That's just like, that's a cool thing. The word wordsmith evokes a cool image. Music's better. It is. Music is so much better. Listen to Rhapsody in Blue. Oh my God. Listen to Mozart, Vivaldi, The Nutcracker. I love The Nutcracker too much. Tchaikovsky did a great job. But the seasons. Listen to Yo-Yo Ma play the goddamn cello. Like, yes, that man has to hate Bach by now. But oh goodness, and it doesn't have to be classical. Keegan Church. The song Tenebrae Rosso Sanguine, it's for a video game, Ultra Kill, but it hits hard. It's heavy metal. I like metal. There's not a single genre of music that's bad. It's all good. It's so good. It's better. I love poems. The Raven, yeah, it's kind of basic. I know, get off my back. But The Raven, so good. Kubla Khan, so good. There are some excellent poems out there, and I'm sorry, but Piano Man is better than every single one of them. It is. Music wins. It's the greatest thing we've ever invented. And when you need to communicate an emotion that's just too powerful for anything else to work, you gotta use music. And then when that doesn't work anymore, you just let the band take over and you dance. Dancing is so cool. Dancing rules! Have you ever seen people dance? They're awesome! I want to move like that. I can't, but it would be really cool, right? Like, it's wild. The balance and movement and motion and power and struggle. It's just, musicals just give you the coolest, shiniest, sexiest vehicles of storytelling you can have, and you get to have all of them, and you get to be a movie or a play, or you can literally just do a concept album on YouTube right now. That's how epic the musical is, and it's cool because it's a musical. It's awesome. Proto Men. Not enough people know about the Proto Men. They made a rock opera about Mega Man, and it rules. Like, musicals are so good, and people need to just pay attention to them. Oh, it's a theater kid, whatever. You're wrong. Musicals are cool. Musicals are they're awesome. And it's cool. You need to do it. Oh, my throat's unhappy. So, I'm sorry, I'm really trying to, we're gonna be here for over an hour, but I'm trying to speed up. Spoken tradition. Hey, you ever have, I'm gonna turn my piano off. You ever have, your parents read you a bedtime story? Affected you, didn't it? The spoken tradition is so much direct author. The movie Princess Bride does it really well. Like, yeah, that's a book, but I'm counting it as spoken tradition because we have the kid going like, wait, but what about X thing? And like, going, oh, no, it's a kissing scene. You won't like it. That's beautiful. That it's like literally spoken tradition is just, hey, I'm the author. You're not the author, but you're like, I'm right here. And you get to participate on the story and I get to communicate and tailor it to you. That's awesome. Campfire stories, ghost stories, the spoken tradition, even just the way, like, oh, dude, I wish I could, like, see a performance, or telling of the Epic of Muindo. I would love, I hear stories from just my mom and other people who are like in the Peace Corps, and like it just sounds so cool. And the idea of like basking in the absolute glory of nature, seeing, the savannah, the jungle, and being in a place of raw elemental force and being told a story. That literal feeling you get of being in a campfire, that you have this tiny little fire and darkness at your back. The only light is like deepening the shadows of a person's face. It's all part of it. It's so incredible. Like, spoken tradition, oh boy, like, the only movie I've really seen at least that I can think of off the top of my head that did it really right is probably just Princess Bride. Like, I think they did an incredible job, but obviously, you have kind of the bad, like, it's still a movie, but like the parts of spoken tradition that shine so well. Just incredible, just really, really useful storytelling thing. We're going to talk about just TV shows. Yeah, I know movies are kind of in the same thing, but they're really not because of the way your story gets structured. The whole beginning, middle, end, the whole, like, you have acts or whatever. You don't have to. The ability to be more episodic, the ability of, like an anthology. Movie anthologies tend to be strange. I will defend Cloud Atlas. I'm wrong, but I'll do it. I enjoyed it a lot. I did. And that is an anthology, and specifically because I think Cloud Atlas handled it being an anthology well. I liked the way it handled its themes and sort of encompassed it. And it doesn't have to be an anthology. Like, Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop is episodic, but it's very, it toes the line a little bit, but it's very definitively built and standing inside the structure of what it is. It is about its atmosphere. It handles things. It's wild. It's crazy, but it lets you see so much more of the space, the world, the characters, the kinds of people you're going to meet. And sometimes it's a 1-second flash of the inside of like a hole-in-the-wall store that's absolutely cluttered, and you just instantly get the vibe and you tuned in. But that's more because of photography. But the time is so utterly premium in a movie, and it is more malleable in a syndicated show. Cowboy Bebop is literally, the strengths of TV are the exact reason that Cowboy Bebop is a masterpiece and Netflix Cowboy Bebop utterly sucks. Like, You don't have to connect the narrative. You don't have to design a show to be binged. You can. There are some excellent shows where that'll work. Sense8 is, I think, my favorite show. I think it's my favorite show. I think that's my favorite, like, what I would consider a live action TV show. Yes, I understand it's not quite, but it is. And I think the way it handles its characters and themes and connectivity and the way it paces an individual episodes that I feel fulfilled and tense and excited for the next thing, like, I think it's great. I love the way it uses its structure as a TV show. I think if Sense8 were a movie, time and cuts wouldn't be the only reason it would fail. Shows can do things movies can't. And that's great. Let's see. Vignettes. That's not the right word, but hear me out. When you go into a church for like Easter or something and you're like, man, I wonder what that painting is, and that painting, there's like 6 paintings that kind of go across the area. And or you can see like a series of paintings, a couple of like museums. There are artists who will do like, this is the first panel, the second panel, the third panel. Individual, like a collection of photographs, statues, what have you, that put together tell a story. Thailand has some temples built on this idea. The Parthenon has on the outside, it has all of the it has all of the Olympians, but it also like tells, I think, part of the story of the Odyssey, Athena helping out Odysseus. I consider these vignettes. That's not what a vignette is. Probably, I didn't look up the dictionary definition for a while. I've just used the word, and its context has become something similar to this concept for me. If I'm using the English language wrong, sue me. Again, Pistols at Dawn, we'll figure it out. But I think 2 things. I think that they are a technology that was limited by the time in which they were most useful. I think the reason you have Christ really had to carry his own cross, and then there was the crown of thorns, and then when you were done with that, he went up on the cross, and it was sad, and then Mary was sad. Like, I think that, on the one hand, it's a way to venerate these things and master, you can spend a lot more time on a much smaller set of objects, frames, paintings, whatever, which is, I think, which allows you to put a lot more care and be a lot more deliberate in a small set of highly developed things. It also forces you to draw out only the 6 or 7 most important things about your narrative, but also, definitionally, it tells a story. Most interesting to me, I think, and this isn't probably exactly correct, there's some absolutely stunning things that you can look at in like art history that will tell you like how these got used and whatnot, and how the sort of technology of storytelling developed through them. But I think the one that stands out the most to me, and the one that I'm always the most impressed by its usage, is space. Where do I start? What do I see as I'm walking through? I keep using the church one because that's like, I think, the sort of picture perfect, in my mind, that's like picture for, like, not a nativity scene, and I can't remember its name. I my grandparents aren't going to be super happy with me, but I can't remember the name of it. But that sense of specifically looking at the stained glass windows with each of the saints, and the specifically you have the like statues or small, like, basically shrines, just like boxes with a specific scene in them, and the way that develops and moves. I like the way it forces me to think as I'm walking between them or looking for them and trying to, like, I think space being part of the storytelling, by which I mean I am in that space. I didn't talk about this with plays. I have done plays already on my. It's literally on the back of an envelope. Sorry, sue me. But there, I specifically remember one play I went to where it was a college production, but it was rather good. Where it was inverted, so you walked into your seating was in the stage area, and they performed the play in the stands, and it was designed to unsettle you. It was designed to, like, you walked through an unfamiliar corridor when you're walking through the backstage area where props and set dressing and sort of the terrain and what the sets are, and seeing all of that, it's like you're seeing something you're not supposed to, and then sitting someplace you feel like you're not supposed to be, and then watching something happen. I remember one play I saw where they had a plant in the audience, and one of the actors stormed into the stands and dragged them back, and like breaking by placing the audience inside the space of the story you are telling, you get to do some really cool things in a play and in a vignette, in a building, in a structure that's supposed to tell that story. I find it utterly beautiful and sort of like internal. You are telling yourself this story with the author's help. That's cool. And I think for something like the crucifixion of Jesus, in a religious context, that is the best way to tell that. I don't think any movie will be as convincing, as personal, as useful to a devout believer, follower, practitioner of the Christian faith than simply being in a space where you must tell yourself that story. The way you can count on rosary beads, the way it immerses you by you enacting, doing something, taking some physical action to make it happen. That's beautiful. That's important. Really, really valuable. Okay. Oh yeah, anime. It's different from a show. It really is. Specifically because anime is targeted towards a less childish audience more often than not, or at least the way we think it does. B, it comes from an utterly different storytelling tradition. Although you can absolutely see the connective tissue. I'm so sorry. Watch The Matrix. Watch The Matrix, then watch Ghost in the Shell, and you will just you're gonna sit there and go, I bet I'm losing a lot of people here, but it absolutely is its own storytelling medium, and it absolutely has its own strength. The simplest one is that if you're drawing just the darndest, coolest drawing you can do, I notice that cartoons are about speed. Cartoons, whenever I see them, and again, it's usually out of like the corner of my eye, or I see like a clip from Gravity Falls appear on my, YouTube feed or whatever. But they feel like they are made cheaply, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that it can be part of like stylization, for example, but so cheaply is not the right word. But for the same reason that cheaply is the wrong word, but it's still useful, I think when I say that anime can be made expensively, that's also the wrong word, but it's still useful. Spirited Away is a masterpiece of raw imagination where Ghibli just walks straight up to your eye, grabs you by the collar, pulls you in, and says, "Imagine it, do it, think this through." Like, that's wild, that's cool, that's awesome, and really only anime does it. So that's utterly useful. Like, yeah, oh man, the coolest looking explosions ever, whatever. The way that you can use silence or motion, like the sort of voice acting, sound work. There's a million different ways to handle this, to make it feel good, and to really sell the space you're coming from. CG is so stupid expensive and tends to be used a little bit wrong. However, when you're forced to use a pen and paper, the camera kind of has to be a little bit more stable. You have to be a little bit more deliberate with your shot. If the camera's moving, that's hard to do. That's extra work. It's usually easier. The camera is almost affixed to something in the frame, and there is something about that if I had thought more about this beforehand, if this were a video essay, this is the kind of thing I would be spending hours describing. But really think about it. Think about the trade-offs that, man, it's harder to move the camera than it is to move things in the camera. Think about the, ways that you can use color that are just harder to do if you're using physical people. Listen, live action Lion King, yeah, okay, the music, let's not talk about that. I don't think I can talk to somebody who liked that movie, talk about its music, and walk away friends. I don't know that I'm capable of that. So, but let's just agree that it looks better when it was drawn. Aladdin looks better drawn, not because of fidelity, not because of extras, not because of how many things are on screen, but because they had better opportunity to make the forest in Snow White the most fairy tale it could be. And the camera could pay attention to it in the way that they wanted it to be paid attention to. They could frame it exactly how they wanted to frame it. The work it takes to make your ideal scene is lessened. Still hard. Please don't take anything I've said to say that any of this is easy. It's blindingly hard to do it well. All art is. But it is, you are the throughput, the distance, the A to B, the literal logistics, the land you have to walk, the distance you have to cover to get from your idea to the coolest thing you can imagine is shorter. And that means you get more imagination per minute. That is my basic argument. Is it universally true? No! No, it isn't. I love Sense8 so much because of how imaginative it is and because of how much it plays with emotion and uses its camera, its characters, the way oh my god, the song What's Up, I think it's called, Four Non Blondes. But the way they use that song to depict joy and curiosity and confusion and switch between them so quickly while still maintaining the driving, ecstatic energy of that, it can be done, but you will get more of it more often out of the best anime in the world than you will the best TV show in the world, the best movie in the world, the best book in the world. Yes, they all have strengths. This one is animes. Taking animation seriously. That's it. That's the whole ball game with anime is that they are taking animation seriously and just actually using the ability to imagine anything and display anything and have anything look exactly like how you want it to look and move it exactly the way you want to move it. Putting all of those together and just actually caring and not being like, ew, whatever, or, oh, big monster fight in Marvel, why does it look so bad? It's just taking it so utterly seriously, and tailoring the design of your actors, for example, their performances, tailoring their performances to how this is going to look, to show, developing the soundscape. It really is different, and it is worth it for why it is different. Animation is not just for kids. It's so cool when an adult does it for things that, for adult feelings, and I don't mean sex and violence. I mean things that are mature and difficult to handle. I mean the, like going through a hard time, addiction, debt. Like there are big falling in love, like the sort of adolescent rom-com thing. That's a big emotion. It's huge. Like there are, but you can do so much more with anime so much more quickly, and your audience is primed for it because they're already suspending their disbelief enough to get to the animation. So you just end up with, there's just so much, there's so much slack your audience has already given you. They're already in the right spot to, like you are hitting the ground running, and then if you run one hell of a race after that, you end up in wild places that other people wish they could get to. Anime, it's incredible. It's not just for kids. I promise you there's something out there. Go watch, everyone says Cowboy Bebop, but they're right. Like there's it's worth it. It's good. Please take it seriously. Okay. Two left. Video games. Yup. Going with the, hey, people, need to take forms of art more seriously. Video games, honestly, one of my favorites. It's probably my second favorite. I don't know. I haven't thought too deeply about it, but it probably is. The fact is, when you do something in a video game, you do it. You press the button, you make it happen, you make the choice. You are able to develop choose your own adventures, like the choose to own your adventure-ness of, you are able to create your own stories. Breath of the Wild is incredible, not because of what the plot is, but because of what I get to do to make it happen. I remember I did a run in Breath of the Wild where I immediately turned around, went into the forest where it's just raining lightning all the time, and I decided I'm a caveman now. I live here, and I'm gonna make my living here. I'm stuck in the rainforest, and I'm gonna do my best. Role played as a knight stuck in a jungle, and it was awesome. You just, the ability to care about the things you care about, achieve the things you want to achieve, the fact that the story fights back is awesome. The fact that it can look like whatever is some of the most, like, over the top visuals I have ever seen. Wasn't in a movie, it wasn't in an anime, it wasn't in a play, it wasn't the whole stage revolving with, Bando Tomosadoro performing in it. It was Final Fantasy 16 just going, like, me finishing a fight, being like, I don't know how you top that. And then the next thing I know, I'm in space. And it's awesome. Like, the ability, like, Final Fantasy 16 is a roller coaster with a lot of problems, but it's one hell of a roller coaster. And that matters. The ability for it to be a journey that you are in control of, the ability to be the main character of the story being told is awesome. Geralt in The Witcher, you're not Geralt. You're not oh my god, audience insert characters, whatever. In a video game, it's so much easier to make an audience insert character. That's what an RPG is 99% of the time. But when you're playing an actual person with actual stuff going on, and they're just doing their thing, this is who they are, this is what they are, this is what they're doing, like, you still get to feel what it's like to be Geralt. You get to be a Witcher. You get to be someone society hates. You are so much more involved in the story. It's different, and it's worthwhile. Play video games. If you like stories, if you care, if this video is trying to do one thing, if I am trying to convince you of anything, it is that every single piece of media, every vehicle, none of them are to be discounted. None of them. Macaroni art is useful to someone somewhere, and it has a strength that no other piece of art has. I don't know what it is, but there are artists a billion times better than I will ever be out there to do that work for me. Every piece of art is valuable. Stories are so important. They make who we are. They form us, they build us, they change us. And every way that you can tell a story is a good one if you do it the right way. There is a story in Legends. The most powerful character in the entire, that's not true, but it's always complicated. Okay, the most powerful person of the universe born, the champion of the real in Legends. His first story is him escaping a city. He lives in a city. It's bad. It's literally an anarchy. No one is in charge. There is no law anyone agrees on, and it's just bad. It's bad for everyone in there, and the only thing he wants, the only thing this man wants is to get out. And I promise you, the single best vehicle for that story is a musical. Because he feels emotions so strong he can't talk anymore and he has to sing. And eventually the emotions get so strong that he can't sing anymore and he has to dance. But the dance is a fight and the singing is him being just honest with himself. I view the Aquila arc of Jade's life as a musical where the legitimate payoff is that the antagonist and the protagonist, Sin and Jade, both get an I Want song that eventually becomes a duet where they argue. I like the idea. I feel, and if you don't know enough about musical theater, that doesn't mean anything to you, but there are songs where you're just saying, this is what I want, like, I want something, this is my goal, and that is often the thing the protagonist says. And there's an I Am song that's just, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and I don't want to change. In my mind, the Aquila arc of Jade's life ends with really just the story of Aquila. It's not just Jade's story. The ultimate moment, the climax of that story is Sin, a character who would have only done I Am songs. This is what I am, this is what I'm doing, this is how it has to be. And this is, I am living this way on principle, goddammit. And Jade, someone who only wants to get out and is willing to sacrifice anything to do it, who's willing to do anything if it gives him a chance of maybe living tomorrow, because he can't guarantee that here. The climax of that story is a person who has only ever had I Am songs, and if I did it just right, a person who maybe never sang because they felt emotions but were never willing to say it. They've been in that you talk until you have to sing, and then you sing until you have to dance. And Jade would talk until he has to sing, so he stops talking because he just can't handle it. And that's not the kind of person he is. He can't take the time to actually feel emotions that strong for fear of going under. That's not something he can do. And for him to finally get his I Want song at the same time that the person who has been feeling utterly powerful things, where only when he calms down can he go from dancing to singing, and when he's singing, he is saying I am, because he is convinced this is how it is, this is what it is, this is how it has to be, and he finally goes from I am to I want. That is the structure of that story, and that is the best way to communicate it to somebody. God, I wish I could write a musical. Like that. Each vehicle of storytelling has power. Using that power properly will lead your story to being something it could only be, meaning something it could only mean, in a way it could only mean if it were told this way. It always had to be like that. It always did. My favorite form of storytelling, only through bias, purely through bias, is tabletop storytelling. Tabletop RPGs. DM, players, going on an adventure, they make the characters, DM renders the world. That's my favorite. It's my favorite because it's what I'm used to. It's what I'm good at. I wish I stood a chance at any of these. I wish I had studied English. I wish I had gone into musical theater. I wish I had learned to dance. I wish I could play 15 different instruments. I wish I could carve like Michelangelo. I wish I could, orate or write poetry as good as I want to. I can't. I try to do all of those tabletop storytelling, collaborative storytelling. I have done all my life, and it's the language I know the best. And it's the language I feel like I can use the best. Legends, the thing this channel exists for, the Legends universe, was made when I was 6. Do you think I was writing books when I was 6? It was grab a couple of sticks, run out into the backyard and play. And you had a character and you did, and there's this problem, and I don't know how it's gonna get solved, but your characters can do something. You're invested in this too, we're in it together. I said at the top of this that I wanted to make a video about the 2 things that I love the most in Legends and why they're gone now and why they're gone matters. I loved those things. They were my favorite, and they were destroyed not because I did something, but because it was where the story had to go. The momentum of the story, the players in it, and the decisions they made all coalesced in such a way that, like, this was the only answer. They lost. They just did. And that hurts. And the universe lost something. It is less safe. It is less secure. People are less happy. But they lost anyway. And I can't just turn it back because that's not how it happened. In a collaborative story, in a tabletop RPG, I can write a story with beginning and middle and end, and I can write it the way that I can write the way Yoko Taro writes and go, I want to end with a feeling and I'm going to work my way back to it. I can do that. You can do that with a video game, but I also have the opportunity to just trust that everyone at the table is enjoying the story as much as I am, and I can tell them the story as they're playing it. I can let them get invested a bit at a time. I can let them find the thing that they like the most and apply more scrutiny to it. I can let their interest drive where we go, what we care about, what we do, and why we do it. And at the end of that, I am left with a world that I have to write for. And that's beautiful. Some of the craziest things that ever happened in Legends. One of the first videos I ever made, I said that time was destroyed. It was destroyed because the players lost. The people, we had like 6 campaigns going on at the same time, and we had a bunch of the highest, for lack of a better term, level characters that we could have, all fighting the same enemy, fighting the same battle in the same place, and most of them lost utterly. And the people that were defending the Eternity Clock said, well, either we fight and lose and they get it, or no one gets to have it. Those are the 2 choices. And I got caught off guard, and that's a beautiful feeling. I like collaborative storytelling because it's the one that I, the author, get to have the most fun. That's why it's my favorite. Crown for No King, obviously, that wasn't a campaign. But, the Legends universe got built in a million different ways. I've always thought of certain parts of it as a musical. I envision certain parts of it as a movie. How would the camera move? What would it do? I think of some of the lore as a book, and we play it. We take all of these things I thought of, and then we live in that space. And that's beautiful, and that's incredible, and I love it, and no other method of storytelling can get me that. And this is the one I understand. This is the one I feel like I can do, and it is the one where I feel like I have crafted the stories I am the most proud of, and those are the stories I am going to bring to you because I am so incredibly happy with them that they are my favorite stories on this planet. They simply are. Are they as good as the things I've mentioned in just the last hour and a half? No. No, they're not. But I love them. Their potential for greatness, if told by the greatest people on Earth. If I got Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman and Yoko Taro and all, and Shakespeare and the Wachowski sisters And, you know, if I could get the greatest directors in the world, if I could get Steven Spielberg, if I could get James Gunn, if I could get these people to make this story, I promise you it would be unbelievable. It would be jaw-dropping. The contents of this story are so good that I am scared of my ability to demonstrate them in such a way that they are done justice. And I worry about my skill to, I can't write a musical. I can't give you the story of Aquila in the way it should be given. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and do something. Maybe I do it twice. Maybe I come up with a concept album. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to mature and I'm trying to develop. I didn't go to film school. I didn't go to art school, and I wish I did because I care about these so much. So I'm going to read every textbook I can find. I'm going to look at every tutorial. I'm going to watch the director's cuts, and I'm going to try and understand how these people think, and I'm going to try and do something because every single method of storytelling has something incredible, and I have a story that needs to be told incredibly, and I am the weak link. I am. So that's my favorite method of storytelling. That's what I think, from my opinion and my understanding, the strengths of each of them are and why they are incredible and worthwhile. I love this stuff, and I hope you do too. Go out there, give them a try. Man, I wish this had been this is kind of a video essay. Didn't mean it to be. I care about these things a lot, and I want to convince you to care about them. I have a story that I think is worthwhile, and I am working as hard as I can to deliver it in a way that is worthy of the story being told. I want to share it with you guys. I want you guys to enjoy it as much as I do. I just want to talk about it. I just want to be a fan of these things. I want to be a fan of all of them. I want to talk to people who love them. I wish the world loved them more. So please do. If I named something you don't look kindly upon, give it a shot and think of it the way I mentioned. Study from someone who knows better. And listen to them, listen to why it's so good, and then try to watch it, try to experience it, understanding what makes it tick. Meet the art on its terms. These things take a certain amount of literacy that we don't always have, and often don't care to learn. I'll see you next time. I will.